Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by the Northward Center, the Turrell Fund, supporting Reimagine Childcare, the Healthcare Foundation of New Jersey, New Jersey Institute of Technology, NJIT makes a difference in our students' futures, Gibbons PC, the New Jersey Education Association, TD Bank, PSC&G, committed to providing safe, reliable energy now and in the future. And by Operating Engineers, Local 825. Promotional support provided by NJ.com, Small News, Big News, True Jersey. And by Insider NJ.
This is One-on-One. I'm an equal American just like you are.
The jobs of tomorrow are not the jobs of yesterday.
Look at this. You got this?
Here it is, man. Look at that.
Life without dance is boring.
I don't care how good you are or how good you think you are, there is always something to learn.
Do you enjoy talking politics?
No.
People call me because they feel nobody's paying attention.
Our culture, I don't think, has ever been tested the way it's being tested right now.
Such a good question. High five.
Hi, I'm Steve Adubato. Welcome to a very special half hour because it's about my dad, Steve Adubato Sr. He passed away at age 87, an icon in politics and public life in New Jersey. He started the Northward Center, a major social service agency, in 1970. A few years later, the Robert Treat Academy, a nationally recognized charter school. He was a political operator, someone who people went to see if they were running for major office. But it wasn't just about politics. It's about what he did in Newark for the children of Newark, for education. We sat down in 2002. He was 69 at the time. And I learned an awful lot in that interview, but more importantly, I hope you do as well. So one-on-one with my dad, Steve Adubato Sr. at NJPAC, candid, irreverent, and just a little bit uncomfortable, but important.
We are joined here at New Jersey Performing Arts Center by a gentleman I've been looking to interview. He's been ducking me for about 15 years. Finally, he's here. I got him on camera. Steve Adubato Sr., the founder and executive director of the Northward Center, one of the country's most respected and successful nonprofit organizations. You can't duck me anymore. This is it.
I think I did a good job looking at you right now.
You know, we should tell people, because some people are sitting there saying, so let me get this straight. Steve Adubato just brought in his father to interview. Like, you know, what are his credentials? So let's go through it. For those, by the way, I can do that, but I'm not doing that.
I think you want to get even. I think
no. That's not it. That's not it. Let's actually let people know a little bit about who you are, and our friends in Pennsylvania and Delaware and Maryland, our folks across the river in New York. You started an organization called the Northward Center, a community-based organization, 1970?
Yes.
Why? Well, what is it and why?
1970. It's a key time in New Jersey and in Newark and in the Eastern Coast, really. 1970, the first African-American mayor is elected to a major city in the eastern part of the United States, in Newark.
Ken Gibson.
Ken Gibson, right. All of a sudden, instantly, something in America that's right now doesn't seem strange, but over 30 years ago it was, the leadership would be African American. Those days it was black. We didn't use the term African American. And the other thing would be whites would be a minority. They'd be living in a city where they're the minority and the leadership is black. Very complicated.
We should make it clear, at the time you were very active in politics in the city of Newark. You were the Democratic chairperson in a certain section of the city of the North Ward. The city, for those of you,
most whites were there.
Yeah, we should let everybody know the city of Newark is broken up into 5 wards. This was the most white, as you say, part of the city. You're very actively involved in politics.
Right.
You're somewhat supportive of the idea of a black administration. You thought the time was right.
I was supportive of the individual, Ken Gibson. I thought he was a better candidate than the other candidate, who at the time of the election was also on trial for 60 counts of selling Newark to organized crime. So,
former mayor at Newark, you at Anizio.
Right. So it was not, to me, a racial thing. I thought Gibson offered a better opportunity to lead the city. Unfortunately, the city didn't vote that way. They voted racially, black-white.
And that's been going on a lot for a lot of years. But the Northward Center, you go from partisan Democratic politics to establishing this community-based organization, and what kinds of things? I mean, I remember early on, I mean, as a kid, and when you started it, you kept saying that white kids in the neighborhood, Italian-American kids, they found it hard to go to college, hard to get money to get grant. They didn't even know how to get grant money. What was so complicated?
Well, let's say it the way it is. You know, that's the only way we're going to get things straight. We have to, you know, be accurate in saying what the reality is. Being black in America meant tremendous disadvantage. Still does, but it was much worse then, okay? In an instant, in a city, not in America, in Newark, the leadership, the guy who's going to run the police, the guy who's going to run the courts, the school system, the mayor, and all is going to be black. That's reality, okay? And these whites in the city, okay, in a sense, were there to how can I say, to hear legitimate the complaints of all these years of neglect. So these white kids who went to the same schools, walked the same streets, when they graduated from high school, they were treated like they were some kind of group that was did something wrong, I guess. I don't know how to explain it.
There was an expression you gave at the time.
Well, the N word, you know, is a tough word. Where the white, you put the N.
What did you mean
Newark.
by that?
I meant that anybody who is not considered a full citizen, anyone who's treated less than another American, and that's what the condition of blacks was, it still is, as I said, and all of a sudden, the whites are going to be a minority, and they're going to be treated that way. And they were.
No less wrong. No less wrong to
Well, it's
treat-
wrong. I mean, I don't want to put degrees. It's wrong all the time.
And so at the time, you formed this organization.
Right.
Community organization.
Right.
You're trying to help kids go to college. You form a daycare center. I remember working there, as I said, as a kid.
Right.
And you have to go to corporations and foundations run by whites, not
Yes.
from the city.
Right, whites, absolutely.
What was the reaction early on when this Italian-American, you were a school teacher, I should let people know, my dad, we never had any money, you know. My dad was a school teacher at Broadway Junior High School. He was the head of the social studies department. You hated your job, fair to say?
Yes.
Wanted to get out of the school system.
Yes.
And so you say, I have this idea for this community organization. You go to corporations and foundations. What do they say to you?
They say, are you Tony Imperial? No, who was Tony Imperial? He was the George Wallace of this part of the country. I said, no, I'm not. I'm against Tony Imperial.
He was head of a segregationist movement.
Well,
in many ways.
Yes, yes. What helped me was to define myself. I'm not him. You know, what I want to do is live in the city with the black leadership. We want to find a way to live. A white minority, here's the whole dilemma. How does a white minority, there's no experience being a white minority, live in a black city? That was my approach to the foundations. And they said, interesting idea. And they helped.
Why is it so complicated? A white minority in a black
It
dominated or black governed city. Why is that so complicated?
Because all you have to do is leave that city and go into, quote, the rest of America and be an advantaged white person. If you stay in that city, you're a disadvantaged minority. Very strange.
We should let
a lot of things, what I'm trying to tell you, that you ordinarily associate with minorities, in Newark, it was happening to minorities and to white people also.
You wanted to find a way to make sense of it for those in that part of the city, those whites who were confused. And by the way, many whites were leaving the city, moving to the suburbs. And by the way, you said, I remember as a kid growing up, I said, you know, why can't we move to the suburbs? Why can't we move to a, quote, safer place? Because I was, I guess, 9 when the riots happened in 1967. You never let us leave. You said we were going to stay in the city. By the way, let's deal with that right now. Why did we have to stay in the city of Newark?
Okay.
You're laughing, Greg, on camera. I want to know this.
Well, here, I think that's the important thing. Why could not the largest city in the most urban state in America, Newark, right? So there was black leadership. Why did whites have to leave? That was my feeling. How do we learn in this new way of living? Why can't we stay in the city? Why can't we be a part of it? That was 32 years ago, I guess. And you know what? That's what we've been answering. Most of the whites did leave, though. They did. And I think it is now a situation where some people are beginning to consider Newark, I mean, all races. There's more options. in a sense, I got to tell you, we failed. There's no way that we could have stopped the white flight. In a silly way, I was much younger, even younger than you are now. And I thought we could, if we did the right thing, but the pressure of race, the problems of race in America were bigger than our idealism.
And now as we fast forward, and we don't do justice to the history of the work that you've been doing in the Northward Center. By the way, if you've just joined us, we were at the beautiful New Jersey Performing Arts Center. We are doing a series of interviews on location here, and it's a spectacular place. And by the way, I remember being here with you and Mom on opening night. It was pretty special. But we're here in Newark, and we're talking to Steve Adubato Sr., and other than being my father, he's one of the most respected leaders in the nonprofit community here in the city of Newark, and have been a political force for many years as well. So I'm going to fast forward. 32 years later, you start this community-based organization. So now, the neighborhood we grew up in Newark is no longer, quote, Italian-American. No. It's Latino. It's, you got all, by the way, Latino means a lot of different things, right? People from Dominican Republic, from Puerto Rico, African-American community.
Absolutely.
Very few whites left.
Yes, the whites are the smallest group.
Okay, so let's talk education. As I said, you started out as a teacher. You were frustrated by the public school system.
Yes.
By the way, why did you leave? And then we'll talk about the educational stuff you've been doing.
Well, I realized that the public education system at that time was broke, and it was. In many ways still is. That's why my children, that's why they left the city. People could think, you know, it was about race, but more important than race, it was not really a fair place, an opportunity for the kids to go to the school system.
And you understood that?
Oh, absolutely. So I wasn't going to be a part of that. So in 1970, soon after Mayor Gibson was elected, I left the school system.
So now, let's talk about some of the things you've done. The New York Times did a piece
By the way, to start our own schools.
Let's talk about that. Mm-hmm. In August of 2000, the New York Times did a feature story. Everyone's heard of charter schools. Most people hear them, they don't know what they are. But the Northward Center started a charter school, the Robert Treat Academy, and the New York Times featured the school in August of 2000. Robert Treat Academy has over 300 children.
Yes, and we'll have 500.
Grades?
K to 8.
K to 8. Now let's be clear on a couple things. A charter school, your charter school, the Robert Treat Academy, again, the kids have among the highest they score among the highest. Well, why don't we talk about the standardized performance tests?
Their scores are exceptional. They are randomly chosen kids. These are not academic. It's chosen in a lottery. Many, many parents come, very few.
A lottery, you have to win. You have to be in it.
A CPA, just like you win, you know, pick 6 or whatever, that nonsense.
For a charter school, by the way, real quick, a charter school is, for those who don't know?
It's a public school. The only thing that's not public is that instead of being operated by a city, it's operated by a community, individuals, and the school itself, the building, has to be purchased or built with private money. There's no public money in building the school. The school, the equipment has to be private. Once the school is built, if they accept your charter, the tuition is paid by the state, and it's a public school like any other public school.
Yeah, but not really, because at the Robert Treat Academy, you're open 210 days a year as compared to a, quote, normal public school open 180 days a year.
Our first day of school is usually the end of July. The latest it is the 1st of August.
And how do parents react to that?
Love it, and the kids love it. Challenge, you know, we do not, the biggest crime in urban education is our kids are not challenged. The more our children are challenged, the more they look for challenges. We just started Saturday classes, but we sort of let up. It's only a half a day. It's only 9 to 12.
Who are these kids?
Newark kids, randomly chosen. But in a short time, they know they're in West Point.
How do they dress?
West Point, uniform, clean uniform.
Why is that important?
The school itself is spotless. The bathroom facilities are everything.
Why is the uniform important?
Because what it means is that what we are here is to have a basic discipline.
Right.
We're not going to be competing about wears this kind of, you know, shirt or this kind of dress or this kind of
sneaker.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Right. Right.
Well, I mean,
in other words, if we're going to be outstanding in our work, not in silly things like apparel.
well, let me get this straight. The Robert Treat Academy is getting praise and recognition all around,
Yes.
not only the state, but this region, for the performance of these kids.
Yes.
So my question is, why with so many other Newark kids in the public school system, and we're not looking in any way to denigrate the Newark public schools.
No, I'm not either. You're right.
But
We
explain
shouldn't.
this. Explain
Yes.
this to me, but more importantly to our audience.
Yes.
Why is it that the Robert Treat Charter School
Yes.
has these kids succeeding, performing like a grade above in reading and math tests, and the kids, their counterparts in the public schools, are suffering? What's that about?
It's that we are not buried under bureaucracy. We can stick to the simple task of educating children. Also, some of it has to be looked at by outside people, because that question I can't fully answer. I'm too close to it. The results are phenomenal. I'm not they're just beyond.
Say somebody else says, I want to do what you're doing, Steve Adubato. I want to start a charter school in my city. Could be in Baltimore, Philadelphia, audience in urban areas all
Right.
over.
Number one,
what do they need to do?
Number one, have much higher expectations. In other words, our school opens at 7:30 in the morning, closes at 5:30 at night. It's open 11 months a year. And I said, now Saturday classes. First challenge, create a situation where the kids are challenged, where they have to inwardly use their resources and really put out work.
Talk about the staff. You got these teachers from the Newark Public Schools, so how are they any different?
No, most of them are not. Some of them are. No, they're not. No. I'd say about 20% are from the Newark Public Schools. They get a 3-year leave of absence.
Where do they come from?
They're there. These people are there. They have to be asked. They have to be challenged. You might say, are there enough people like that? That question has to be answered by someone else. I know we have them.
You have great committed teachers who care about these kids and give more than some might expect from the average
Hey,
teacher.
if you're, Steve, in the environment, it shouts that. You have to do your best, because everybody else is.
So what's happening in a typical Newark or Baltimore or Philadelphia or New York City public school that's any different? Is it a different environment? I mean, you were there for 20 years in the public schools.
Let me tell you, the answer to America is not charter schools. Yes, charter schools are not going to, we are a proving ground, a laboratory. The answer is the public schools of America.
Can they do it?
We have to. 90% of our kids in America go to public schools. If our urban schools fail, the price is beyond, if you want to put it in dollars, it's
What is the price?
It's the loss of our future. It means the deterioration of our society. The charter school is a small, as they said, proving ground, a laboratory. I'm very much against the concept that charter schools are going to replace the public schools. Let's use the information we got here, like the longer school year,
right,
and let's transplant that into the public school.
What would stop it? What would get in the way? Be frank.
Everything.
Just the two of us talking.
Everything.
Teachers union?
Everything. And don't, I'm going to put it on one thing.
Educational bureaucracy?
Everything in our society. For instance, why are our kids in urban America out from June until after Labor Day? There's no reason for that. What are they doing? Why are they're getting up late, watching a lot of television, getting into trouble? I mean, the city doesn't have all kinds of opportunities for kids. And I ask why. I asked some superintendents why. You know what they said to me? There's no air conditioning in the schools. I laughed. I said, I know a company, a factory that makes garbage pails in Newark. They have air conditioning. Don't tell me you can't have air conditioning. Silly reasons and lots of reasons. We got to change them. Big excuses.
Listen to this.
You're getting me all excited.
That's okay, but listen
I'm
to
going
this.
to spank you.
It's too late for that. You already screwed up. How about this? We're doing the program. I don't know if people just heard the church bells. Guys, you hear that? Real quick, it's got me thinking. It's at 3 o'clock. We're here at NJPAC. We're talking to Steve Adubato Sr. Let me ask you real quick. I left the public schools as a kid when I was going into 8th grade. I was 12 years old, going to 13. You fought me on this.
You
said
left,
you're gonna,
not me.
You fought me on this. You said you're not going to leave. You're a chicken.
I said
stay
fight,
here, fight here. And by the way,
and you were right.
I was fighting for my lunch money every day to hold on to it. That's another story. But here's this.
And you didn't win many fights, Steve. That just really ticked me off.
That's how I learned to talk. But here's the deal. Catholic schools. Catholic schools were my salvation in many ways. Not just grammar school.
You were right. I was
high
wrong.
school. I went to a Catholic high school here. And let me tell you something. You and I know that hundreds, thousands of kids watching this program, parents, you know it as well, that Catholic schools in the city saved a lot of kids. Why aren't Catholic schools the answer?
Catholic schools are not answers, no. With the income that they have, what they have to pay teachers, they are not. They're quieter than public schools, but I don't think, you can't, with the amount of dollars that they have. I mean, they have the heart, they have the will, but you need resources.
Real quick, the Forest Hill Academy, talk to us about that.
What do you want to know about it?
Well, we talked about Robert Treat. Make the other part of it clear.
You mean the private school?
Yeah. Again, because we can't assume everybody knows.
Can we do it real short?
Real short.
It is something that came out of a parent who came to us and said, will you take my kids? There were triplets.
Right.
She was a 35-year-old Puerto Rican woman. And we said, there's a lottery. And she started to cry. We didn't know what to do. Well, guess what? She was dying of cancer. We had no idea. And before the lottery, she died. Guess what? The kids lost the lottery. So we created this school as a mirror of the charter school.
Forest Hill?
Yes.
What is it?
We're talking about the Forest Hill private school.
Yeah,
You're talking about the Forest Hill children. That's something else.
Make it clear. What are the grades that we're talking about here? Clarify it for us.
Kindergarten, first grade, and now second grade. But the point is to hold them there until there was a space in the charter school.
That was the logic.
Yeah. And
What's
you know
been the
what?
reaction?
Those 3 kids now are in the charter school. They finally are in the charter school. The school you're referring to is our preschool. Right. We have 500 children. I'm sorry. We got a lot of things going on.
Go ahead. Preschool.
We have 500 children, 3 and 4. New Jersey is incredibly advanced in this. Every 3 and 4-year-old child that comes from a poor family and lives in urban America, urban New Jersey. See, I know it goes beyond New Jersey, but this, for 4 years now, this is our 4th year, has a right, you don't have to use it, but you have a right to education at 3 years old.
The law says
it's not daycare.
That's right.
You have a teacher who's certified, you have a curriculum, the kids learn really how to read.
Let me ask you a question. We have a few minutes left.
Or almost how to read.
Let me ask you something. You leave the public schools back in, 1970, you leave.
Yes.
After how many years were you teaching, by the way?
16 years.
16 years. I mean, I remember you hated it at a certain point. Not that you hated the kids. You couldn't do it.
Because I knew it wasn't happening.
Okay. 32 years later, this is what you're doing. Your work and the work of the people around you, the teachers, the administrators, the staff, has been recognized nationally.
Yes.
You interact with these kids a lot. I've seen you.
Yes.
What's it like for you to be in a classroom with these kids in the Robert Treat Academy, the other programs? What's it like to actually be in a classroom with those
like
kids?
a grandparent. You know how a grandparent feels? Everything is great with the kids. That's the way it feels. It's fantasy, pure fantasy. The kids know Big Steve.
That's what they call you.
You know what I'm proud of? I'm a really proud man, very, very proud. I'm proud that I don't know if there's anybody my age, I'm 69, and an executive, who knows as many children as I do. Know who they are, they know who I am. That's great.
So what's the game plan for the future?
We want to finally try to transmit some of these ideas to the school that really is important, the public school. We want the things that we have learned, to share them. That's the goal. Maybe somebody else is going to do that, but we certainly have it ready to share right now.
Why don't we do this? We go to a quick commercial break. I'll give you just a minute and a half left to finish up the interview I've been wanting to do for a long time. Hopefully you've enjoyed it as well, going one-on-one. I'm trying to pick the brain of Steve Adubato Sr. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
To watch more One-on-One with Steve Adubato, find us online and follow us on social media.
Got a few seconds left. Let me ask you, future of the city of Newark. You're born and raised here. You're never going to leave. I know that.
Got no place to go.
Got no place to go. What's the future of this city?
This building, I want to use fantasy again. Who would ever believe? It seems like we have another chance. It seems like there's hope. There was not hope for many years. A few years ago, you know what my hope was? Maybe 5, 10 years ago? I said, things are bad. I wish they could at least just stay this bad. I hope 10 years from now it won't be so much worse. And there's reason now to hope. It's much better than it was 5, 10 years ago. You know, right now, all America is aware of the external forces that threaten us, you know, the terrorism, right? And we need to meet that. But if we ever neglect the internal things, the internal cancer of our society, the malaise of urban society, and education is the foundation of that whole thing, you know what?
2 seconds.
That'd be a worse way for America to die. So we're gonna have to do both. We have to protect ourselves from the outside, externally, and we have to protect our cities, our kids, and our people, you know, who need a chance to be full Americans.
Doable.
Of course it's doable. This is America.
Got 10 seconds left. Do you have a good time?
Love it.
I wasn't mean to you, right?
I'm surprised. Italians kiss, you don't shake hands.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation. Funding has been provided by the Northward Center, the Turrell Fund, supporting Reimagine Childcare, the Healthcare Foundation of New Jersey, New Jersey Institute of Technology, Gibbons PC, the New Jersey Education Association, TD Bank, PSC&G, and by Operating Engineers, Local 825. Promotional support provided by NJ.com and by Insider NJ.
Day after day, we rely on electricity for all the ordinary things in our lives and for the extraordinary.
Mom! Hey, sweetie. How are you? So, tell me about the game.
I scored 2 goals.
That's my boy.
At PSEG, our commitment to you now is more powerful than ever.